My name is Asha Praseedom. I'm the consultant psychiatrist in Mulberry One, and I'm delighted to share with you this innovation that we've developed in Mulberry One, which is a 72-hour assessment unit in Cambridge. And this is Charlie. Charlie and I, Charlie is the ward manager for Mulberry One, and we are going to share some details of this. Obviously, we've only got 5 minutes, so we'll try and tell you a little bit about why we developed it and what we do. So we call it the Open Door. We called it our Open Door initiative. And what that means is, well, when we first opened Mulberry One 2 years ago as the assessment unit in Cambridge, we rapidly realized that we were going to have a group of patients who were coming into hospital very frequently. So these are patients mostly with diagnoses of personality disorder, in particular emotionally unstable personality disorder. And they were what we call frequent attenders. So they were patients who were either coming via the 136 suite or via out-of-hours GPs and via the A&E department at Addenbrooke's. And we found that some patients had 2 or 3 admissions in a week. And we thought about a way we could help patients to see the admission as a positive part of their recovery journey. Okay. So the aims of the initiative was to promote shared responsibility with the patient and to work collaboratively with the patient. And as I said, these were patients who attended A&E frequently with self-harm, usually overdosing, but also with quite serious cutting and other forms of self-harm. And we wanted to reduce the scenario where patients felt that they had to take greater and greater risks to communicate their distress due to not being heard. So what we found was that you'd have a patient may have been admitted with an overdose. We discharged them after 3 days because we are a 72-hour unit, and we found that after a couple of days they've been admitted with a larger overdose, or they've cut as well as taken an overdose. And what we found was that it was pretty clear at that point that patients found the admission pretty helpful. They liked they liked being on the ward. They found it very beneficial, but they really struggled with the admission coming to an end, and also found that patients were finding it very difficult to regulate their emotions while they were at home. So in between admissions, they were finding it very difficult to regulate their emotions. So, and we thought about a way of turning this idea on its head. Of patients kind of being referred by a GP, going through a crisis team, being assessed by the crisis team, and then being offered an admission, to actually saying to the patient, look, do you want to come in? Just ring us and you can come in. So we started offering this open door process to a handful of patients. As I said, most of whom, I think all of them had diagnosis of personality disorders, and they were all engaged with the community personality disorder service. And we said, look, let's help you. Clearly you like coming into hospital. You find that very helpful, but somehow the improvement that we see in hospital isn't being sustained when you're at home once you're discharged. So if you feel you'd like help in dealing with a crisis, let's actually try and prevent that crisis. And if you feel desperate enough to want to self-harm, ring us and you can come in. And the only condition we really put down was to say, look, you should try not to have self-harmed for 24 hours before the admission. So if you start feeling desperate, call the crisis team and you can come in, we'll book a bed. So we just went ahead and did this, started offering the open door. The first patient who we offered it to actually didn't even take up on the offer of it. This was a patient who had about 5 admissions in the course of a month, and she then didn't come in for a whole year. She rapidly fell pregnant as well after that, and then didn't come back in at all. So we've had very, very good results with this open door policy, and we've looked at some numbers. A huge fall in repeated admissions, huge fall in A&E attendances, and patients find it very helpful. We've given control of admissions back to the patient. They come in, they know what to expect. They come in for 2 nights, so that's 2 nights and 3 days, and we do take some positive risks at that point. Come the 3rd day, if the patient is still very suicidal, for instance, we then have to make a judgment on whether we proceed with discharge on that day or not. As it says on the slide, we've seen huge reduction in numbers of A&E attendances, frequency of admissions, etc. Charlie, anything more to add?
So I think, kind of coming back to what you were saying about the difficulties we've had with admissions before, and also that kind of whole the admission to discharge process, it's really smoothed that out for a lot of our patients now. In terms of self-harm on the ward, we have a no self-harm policy, which is something we ask all of our admissions to sign up to, and they do work with it very well. Kind of one of the conditions around that is if someone does self-harm on the ward, we'll look at, is the ward making your distress greater? Do we look at you needing to go home? And we may discharge them and say, today's not a good day, the ward's making you worse, would you like to come back tomorrow? And we'll review it very much on that basis. But I think the biggest thing for me was sitting to put this presentation together and actually looking at the statistics around how long we're now keeping people out of hospital. So I think there was one particular patient I looked at, and they were having kind of year-long admissions at a time. We've not seen them in a year and a half now. They've contacted the ward, I think, twice, requesting an admission. We've offered the bed. They haven't used it. They're not coming in anymore.
Okay. Just a couple of quotes. One patient said, "It helped me to see that I don't need to be in hospital for every crisis that I experience." Another patient said, "Just knowing that there's a safety net there makes me feel secure, even though I don't need you. I may never have to use it. Just knowing it's there makes me feel that I can cope with a crisis if it hits." And for them, they said, "The daily crisis that you're used to be on are a thing of the past."
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much.